Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I have a great guest today. I'm excited to talk with her about just a multitude of issues. Gwenna Hunter is with us today. Gwenna Hunter is the Los Angeles Vegan Food Aid Outreach Coordinator with veganoutreach.org, and the founder of the online group Vegans for Black Lives Matter and also the Facebook page Vegans of LA. She became vegan 4 years ago after experiencing a connection with a cow in her dream and seeing the video, Dairy is Fucking Scary. And if you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend it. Yeah. She realized that animals have the same exact capacity for love and suffering that humans do, and realized that we've been lied to about why they're here. Gwenna started Vegan for Black Lives Matter as a way for those of a like mind to connect and share our pain and to discuss solutions and practice racial unity. So I am a member of that group. It's a great group of people. So welcome, Gwenna.
Hi, thank you, Gina.
Of course, it's so great to see you. I haven't seen you in several years, I think it was. We were at a Veggie Connection event, I think is where we first met.
Yes.
Jean Gower and I were both speaking at the event. So yeah, so great to see you.
Likewise.
So tell me, so 4 years ago you went vegan. You've done a lot in 4 years because you are everywhere in the vegan community. So you just like lit it up. But tell me about Vegan Outreach. Tell me exactly what they do and what their purpose is.
So the purpose of Vegan Outreach is to end violence against animals. And that's exactly the word that Vegan Outreach uses in their description. It was started by Jack Norris. He's the founder and creator of Vegan Outreach. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because we keep evolving into so many different things and morphing, which I absolutely love. For the most part, it's been about like leafleting and going on to college campuses and going to different events. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I was responsible for doing was going to like attaching myself to any type of event in Southern California, whether it be a festival or any type of gathering where there were going to be a large group of people that were not vegan, and bring samples for people to try, cheeses, jerkies, different types of things that people don't equate with being delicious and vegan at the same time, especially cheese, which is the one that I usually found would kind of help get people curious. They'd be like, oh my God, this cheese is vegan. I'm like, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I've done different things in Vegan Outreach. Initially, I was hired to do community events where I would go into different communities, mostly people of color communities, libraries, different nonprofit organizations. I would bring a chef, or sometimes I would attempt to act as the chef and would provide full meals for people while we talked about the benefits of veganism and, you know, how it's good for the body and the planet and things like that. So, and recently, because of COVID, what we've morphed into is that we have a program now called Vegan Food Aid. So we have someone in Albuquerque, New Mexico who feeds the Navajo Nation. We have someone that goes out to Iowa and feeds slaughterhouse workers and insecure, or I won't say insecure, but I'll just say food desert communities. Mm-hmm. We have people in Sacramento and surrounding areas that are feeding senior citizens and undocumented workers. So we're all trying to reach, you know, the vulnerable and the heroes of our community. So I am responsible for a community called Black Women for Wellness. And every Thursday we have a big old truck that comes and dumps all this fresh organic produce that we order every week, and we literally package each and every bag with love and care. And then we have hot food vendors that come out and provide them with hot takeout vegan food. Oh, wow. And and it's great. And we just recently partnered up with Support and Feed, who makes it very, very affordable for us to keep this going and doing this. So very thankful to their support. So, and then we do it once a month for the Black Lives Matter Los Angeles chapter. And
Okay.
we do it for them because, they're on the front lines still,
Mhm.
protesting, marching, showing up at people's homes on their front lawn saying, hey, this isn't okay. And so, we provide, I like to call it support.
Mhm.
And so we provide them with support once a month with groceries and hot vegan food.
Oh.
And it's really beautiful watching the happiness on people's faces, especially with
Mhm.
Black Lives Matter. The co-founder, Melina Abdullah, they're all very appreciative, and they're like, hey, we're eating more vegan up in our house. I'm like, that's the goal.
Oh, good. Good. Have you
Yeah.
had anybody that's come back and said, I made the switch completely after meeting you or trying the food that you provided or?
So what with Black Women for Wellness, we've had some senior women that have said that they have greatly reduced their consumption of meat products because most
Mhm.
people, I remember I tried veganism. I didn't know, well, I would say I didn't know what the word vegan was at the time, but when I was a teen, I tried to eat vegan just because it was something about it. Maybe I had a prophecy. I don't know, but I was curious about vegan foods
Uh-huh.
and stuff. And I'm like, wow, people don't eat meat. I'm like, that's amazing. And I tried and it was horrible. I'm like, how do these people live? It was disgusting. I was like, oh, not for me. I was like, I won't be doing that again.
Oh, too funny. Yeah, it really depends on what
But I
you're
was.
exposed to initially.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we've had a lot of people that say they've lost weight and
Oh,
that they're
good.
feeling better. And so, my goal is, to really work on the leaders of these communities because their voices are very powerful and they're very influential. And
Yeah.
so if, they can make the connection and make it all the way, because right now I'm
Mhm.
with Black Lives Matter, I'm being very patient. I'm not go vegan. You got to that's not the way with
Mhm.
this community. It's, hey, here's this food. There's no strings attached. And there isn't. There aren't any strings attached. There's no
Right.
requirement to do anything other than accept.
Mhm.
And, but eventually, I want to bring in Jasmine Lavia, the creator of An Invisible Vegan, and maybe do a movie screening, have them watch her movie, then
Mhm.
maybe do a screening of What the Health. And because
Mhm.
movies seem to make a really big impact on people because they
Yeah.
can see it, they can hear it, and nobody's in their face saying rah rah rah. It's just facts.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm
No, I
hoping.
literally just had a friend that reached out to me for years. I mean, she's seen me posting on Facebook about, my vegan transformation and what it
Hmm.
did for me and all the videos that I've shared, from other people. But she just watched What the Health and Forks Over Knives. And she reached out and said she's been trying to go vegan for a few weeks now and she wanted some advice from me. So she's signed up and she's now in my training program. But yeah,
Oh,
you never
great.
know, what that spark is going to be, but documentaries are excellent.
They are. They get right in there. And so many people, when What the Health came out, I mean, there was an influx of
Hmm.
vegans and Black vegans that just they made the connection. So
Right.
I'm really hoping that by the end of the year we can um, get them all to watch both of those documentaries and then take it to the next level. Like, okay, let's talk about this, and also the systemic racism that is involved with food production. And
Absolutely.
so yeah, it's embedded everywhere, and I'm
Yeah.
finding this out no matter I'm like, okay, this sock probably has some type of racism embedded in it. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
somebody was oppressed to make this sock so that
Yeah.
somebody could make a profit. It's just crazy.
Yeah. It's literally embedded in the literal fabric of our society
Yes.
almost. Yeah. No, I hear you
Yes.
on that. And so, like, what's the response that you typically get when you guys go out and just do outreach to not necessarily with Black Lives Matter, but just strangers?
Usually, the responses, for the most part, people are pretty receptive to listening as long as they can get, put their hands on the samples or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I've had people, I remember once, this was probably like in around December, and I was doing a food demo at a store, one of the natural grocer type stores,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sampling out some vegan cheeses, and there was a gentleman that walked up to me, and he's like, yeah, I'm starting to make the connection. He was like, I'm starting to make the connection towards the animals being conscious. And I was like, yes, because that's my topic, is like
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, but I don't
Yeah.
really go into that. I just kind of, usually I just kind of keep it a little general for people.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wanted to talk about animal consciousness, and I'm like, yes, I got a live one. And so, I was telling him my story, and I'm like, yeah, I had no idea that animals even had their own self-awareness. I said, which is crazy, because I've always considered myself to be a self-aware spiritual person and
Mm-hmm.
considerate, and never considered that animals were like this. So then a older woman walks up to me in our conversation and says, yeah, but she's like, we kill our animals humanely, so they don't suffer. And I
Oh.
started to glitch. I'm like, like, how am I, like, and I'm like, because I felt that heat rise, and I'm
Yeah.
like, and so I'm like, what do you mean humanely? I'm like, do you think that anybody wants to die? I'm like, I don't, so we were talking about the word humane, and
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I said, you don't think that they love and that they care for their children? And she's like, oh, they have a great life. They get to roam and be free and do whatever. And then we just shoot them right in the head. And she wasn't being being a smart ass to me.
Yeah, no, I'm sure she believed every word she was
She
saying.
did. The way she looked at me, because some people, they try to hurt your feelings and say, she wasn't being this way. She was like, yeah, we just shoot them right in the head, and that's it.
Oh my
And I
God.
think I did glitch. I was like, oh, I'm about to short circuit right now and lose
Yeah.
my shit. But I had to
Yeah.
calm down. And I'm like, my question to her was, who wants to come to this planet to be shot in the head just so that you can, eat their
Yeah.
body?
Yeah.
And she
Well,
just didn't.
that's how they killed prisoners of war. Would anybody say, oh, well, the
Mhm.
Japanese killed our soldiers humanely? Or, whomever, or the Germans killed I mean, oh my God.
It's like, and the fact that she could say that and still have a little bit of compassion by saying, oh, they have a great life, and they this, and we don't do this to them, and we allow them, but then in the same breath you shoot them in the
Yeah.
head. And it's just,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
I
know,
just left scratching my head that entire day. And so many people have that, and maybe they don't, she did her own killing.
mhm.
But a lot of people just have this, and I get the cognitive dissonance, because I was that, so I
Mhm.
do
Yeah, me
understand.
too. For 41 years.
Yeah, and so I
Yeah.
do understand that you don't always make the connection,
Hmm.
but it's still just very hard to accept that all it took for me was to know that they were aware and had consciousness and that they love. I was like, wait a minute, they love? Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy that I never even thought that my
Yeah.
whole life. But once I made the connection, I'm like, oh, they're conscious and they're aware of their emotions. They cry when their children are taken. They run after them. They feel sadness. They're suffering. That's it.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
me, it's like, yeah, that to me is, once you have that awareness, that
Mhm.
should be it.
Yeah. I mean, I probably would have said to that woman, well, do you have a dog or a cat?
Yeah.
So would it be okay if I came in and just shot your dog or your cat in the head? I mean, they've had a great life with you up until this point, right? So it's
Hmm.
humane. I
And I
mean,
could tell you, even in those conversations, some of the rebuttals are, well, cats aren't, they're not here for us to eat. The cows and chickens and pigs are. And then you have people that have a little bit of Christianity or religiousness in them, who will tell you where in the Bible it says it's okay to, which, honey, do not get me
Yeah.
started on that book.
Yeah. Yeah. I always tell people, if a woman had written the Bible, I think it would sound a lot different.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
women wouldn't be stoned to death for cheating when it's okay for men. I mean, there's crazy stuff in the Bible that people don't even think twice about. Like, if a woman a female tries to learn, you should chop off her hands or something like that. It's like, you guys don't question this. You can't just pick and choose what
I
you want to
know.
believe.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. When I remember in my 20s, I took it upon myself to read the entire Bible. I
Hmm.
was horrified as I was reading this stuff, and I was just like, and I was very, very undecided in my belief, and I'm always evolving, so I'm never like solid ever in my
Hmm.
beliefs because they expand. But I was really confused as to, God is a he or a she or it or a they, or, and then I'm like, are you nice? Are you mean? Are you in the sky?
Yeah.
Are you in me? Like, I was very like, so I'm like, let me just read this book to see if I can get some answers. And I remember I would be reading stuff and I'm like, did you write this? I'm like, this is horrible. I'm like, I'm nicer than you are. If this is what you wrote, I'm like, you're not a very nice person.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I believe in a higher power, but I don't, and I call it God, but I don't tell people what they need to call,
Yeah.
whatever deity or entity or, I mean, to me, it's like, it's not, unless somebody can prove it, unless someone can show me factually and you show me evidence of something, then, to me, it's just kind of an enigma.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to each his own. I don't, I don't bash people for their beliefs, but yeah, when you're going to use the Bible to justify wars and to justify murdering living beings, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's not going to fly with me.
That doesn't fly with me either because, I've had a lot of like supernatural experiences in my life where it wasn't just like a figment of my imagination, and I've been allowed to experience like the feeling of true joy, the feeling of true peace, the feeling of this powerful force of love. And I'm like, no, that didn't write that book. Now, there are some things in the Bible that are beautiful and there are sweet that may
Mhm.
have been inspired, but that other crap in there, no, that was a man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it doesn't say thou shall not kill only two-legged animals. It says thou shall not kill. So if you want to use the Bible,
I'm telling you,
then you
it's so many
gotta
contradictions in
stick
that
to the
thing. You'll lose
words.
your mind trying
Yeah,
to figure that thing out. And that's why people that live their lives based on it, I can't trust anything coming out of your mouth because that thing is that you probably get schizophrenia trying to follow what's in that book. So
yeah.
it's like,
Oh yeah, you can pick and choose all day to justify whatever position you have. So yeah, I think that right is right and wrong is wrong. And like I said, I was a meat eater for 41 years. I grew up in my parents' Italian deli. I was
mm,
literally surrounded by dead animals because we were forced to work there, my older brother and I. So, I mean, I was, slicing sandwich meat, never gave it a second thought. I mean, we made our own sausage. We, chopped up the pork and,
yeah.
cleaned out the intestines to fill it. And I
Oh,
mean,
wow, you did that yourself?
oh yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. We everything at our deli pretty much was homemade. And so yeah, it was, just totally 180 from where I am now. But I had such a huge health transformation after going vegan. I mean, the animal cruelty side was also, like you, what really started me thinking about it and triggered it. But I mean, the health transformation was just unbelievable. So, did
Yeah.
you have any health issues before you went vegan, or did you
I
notice any
did.
differences?
I did. I had the worst menstrual cycles on the planet.
Really?
And I mean, they literally controlled my schedule, my life, what I would do, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like, yeah, I would save my vacation days and sick days for when my cycle came on because I totally couldn't function.
Wow.
And I mean, it was like the pain would be so severe. Um, Breakouts, severe
Mm-hmm.
breakouts, the mood swings would be like really on the extreme, crying, um, and just heavy, and
Mm-hmm.
then even still spotting for up to a week, even after it's kind of over. So it was just like
Yeah.
I dreaded it. I dreaded it.
Mm-hmm.
And I took taken this challenge. It was a friend of mine at the time that had called me, and she was like super Christian, and she's like, "Hey, I want to take this fast called the Daniel's fast, which is inspired from the Bible, is where you abstain from animal products and all types of different things."
Mm-hmm.
And it was just something when she called me and was like, "Yeah, let's do it for like 28 days." And I'm like, "Oh, that's like being vegan." And it was something about it. It was just like I felt this, oh, like you got to, like, this is your moment, do it. And
Yeah.
I said something about this feels right. And I was like, I'll do it. So I did it, and I like lost weight and I was feeling good, and my menstrual cycle came on, and I was shocked because usually I get the pre emotions and
Mm-hmm.
bloating and all this other stuff, and none of that. And it literally ended. It was on for like 3 days, and then it stopped. Like no
Mm-hmm.
spotting. I didn't have one cramp, like
Wow.
not even a flutter in my
Wow.
stomach. And it was light, and I was pleasant, and I didn't break out, and I wasn't crying. I was actually happy on my cycle, which I had never experienced before. I'm like,
Wow.
well, I'm actually laughing and having a good time on my cycle. And I was like, this is, and for something to control your life and then have
Mm-hmm.
this experience, I'm like, it must be me eating meat. So I decided to be vegetarian and also pescatarian,
Mm-hmm.
and stayed on that path, and had nothing to do with any animals. I could have cared less. That wasn't my thing. But I remember like one of the first videos I came across was an undercover investigation through PETA that was narrated by Pamela Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about chickens. And she was like, oh, and chickens, form their own little cliques and communities. And I was like, chickens form their, I was like, chickens think? I was like, what the? I was like, my mind was getting blown. I was like, what do you mean they form their own communities? And so they were showing like undercover, video of them like being together and different things. And she was just talking about their emotions and personalities. And I was like, what? And it was crazy because I was like, it just had never even
Yeah.
came in any side. And that didn't make me go vegan, but it just made me think more. I was like, huh. I was like, okay, so chickens have like, they have little friendships. I was like, this is interesting. And then I remember I would go to the grocery store. This is right before I had this Daniel's fast, but it was like little things were happening in my life that
Mm-hmm.
were planting seeds. I remember when I would go to the grocery store, and if I wanted to like make chicken noodle soup, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember I would buy the whole chicken. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember one time going to the grocery store to get the chicken, and it was a whole chicken. And I looked, and I was like, this chicken looks like a headless baby.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I was just like, and I remember putting it back. I was like, this is grossing me out. But I was like, what's happening? I didn't know what was happening to me because I had never experienced that before. But I remember thinking, this chicken looks like a headless baby. I was like, it's
Mm-hmm.
got a body and arms and legs.
Yeah.
And I just remember little things just started making me feel weird. So it's like I had these little things leading up to, and it takes me a while to make connections sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
once it finally hit, and then I had the dream about the cow. And in the dream, I'm flying in the sky, and I see this cow in this beautiful green pasture, and we look at each other and merge and become one. And
Oh.
I felt I was the cow. I felt everything
Oh.
and everything. And I came out of the dream, I was like crying uncontrollably. I couldn't stop crying because I was like, oh my God, cows love.
Yeah.
And they suffer and they feel, and they have a high consciousness, and they have a high frequency, and they're aware. And I'm like, and we eat them?
Yeah.
Like, and so it shook me to the core. And even though I wasn't eating cows, I was still consuming, dairy products. But I
Mm-hmm.
still was under the illusion that dairy was gentle, and that, the
Mm-hmm.
farmer milks the cow, and
Yeah.
she says moo, and
Yeah.
that's what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to give us her milk.
Right.
And then it was literally within a couple of weeks I saw the video, Dairy is fucking scary. And when I saw that, I was like, that's it. I was like, I connected as a woman. I'm like, what they do to her udders, her breasts, we
Yeah.
call them udders, but what they do to her body, how they force, insemination on her. She
Right.
gives birth. They pulling the baby out all rough. And then she can barely even bond before they're taking him. And then I saw her running after the cart that had her baby in it. I was just boo-hooing, and I'm like,
I know.
I just was in shock that nobody around me knew this.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm like, how come we're not talking about this? And how come this isn't on the news?
Yeah.
And why isn't this on CNN? Like, this is like,
Yeah.
everybody must know.
Yeah, I had the same feeling, and I write about that in my book about how they cry for their baby
Yes.
for days, sometimes weeks. They belch
Yes.
their babies. Yeah, and yeah, we're just taught like, oh yeah, it's just normal. You just milk the cow. You don't think about what you have to do to get that cow to the state where she has milk to be milked. Yeah, she has to been pregnant or she has to be pregnant, and that baby goes somewhere. And if it's a boy, as we all know, sadly a lot of times it goes in a little crate where it
Yep.
can't even move, and then never even gets to walk before it's
I
slaughtered.
know. And I never knew that, veal, it had never even dawned on me what veal was.
Yeah.
That veal is, a little boy
Oh yeah.
that,
Yeah, we made
yeah.
veal cutlets and our
Yep.
deli. Yeah, veal parmesan.
Yep. I never
I,
even considered what it was or who it was that I never questioned what veal was. I never questioned so many different things. And so after that, I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, well, if cows are going through this and they love, let me start looking up these other animals, pigs. So I started looking at these different videos, and I was just like, I'm like, this has to be the worst horror movie. Like, you come to this planet
yeah.
and you want the same life everybody else has, peace. The same thing we're all striving for is peace, abundance, freedom. But everybody has been programmed to believe that you're food.
Yeah.
That has to be like the worst thing ever. Like, and it's crazy because it's the same blueprint that's used for all oppression. It's like you have these master human programmers that will tell you, oh, Black people were put here for this, women were put here for this, animals were put here for this, and people buy into the program, and then it takes thousands of years before people start to wake up, and realize that, hey, that's not true.
Right.
And it's like, and not that the program has been fixed, because we still have issues with, how women are treated, and we still have issues. Definitely, we all are learning now what's happening with, racial inequality and injustices. And, with the animals, it's just like, that's just a huge compound on top of all of it, on top of it. And I try my best to, when I'm talking to people, like really pay attention to the pattern of how people connect with the information. That's why it's very important. And I like to tell people, know your audience. You cannot say the same thing, because every culture has a different type of programming.
Right.
And how we eat, how we connect, how we've been taught. That's why you can't go into a Black community like, oh, animal rights. You're going to get booed and ran up out of there. You got to bring that message in differently, but I find like if I'm talking to an older white community, I can talk more about different aspects, and it's okay for me to talk about animals and certain things because that's not something that is on their radar as far as like, rights and things like that. So their defenses are down completely. When I love talking to hippie communities, like
Mm-hmm.
spiritual communities.
Mm-hmm.
That's really my attraction because I'm kind of part of that in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them haven't made that connection, but their hearts are open.
Right.
They understand love and they want to spread joy and
Right.
butterflies and rainbows and baby's breath and all that.
I
And
understand the
so,
connectedness of living beings, I think, on a
yes,
different level. Yeah, I say the same thing. You have to tailor your message depending on who you're talking to. And
yes,
it's different between genders, it's different between cultures,
yes,
it's different with people who are religious versus non-religious. So yeah, you really have to know your audience.
that's right. That's
Yeah, I
right.
mean, yeah, and I give talks, and some people will get up and walk out because they can't handle it, they don't want to hear it, and then I had other people sitting there literally bawling, and they appreciate the message and they get
Yeah,
it. So, and sometimes it's just not the right time for that person.
that's
Sometimes
right.
it's going to take a while.
Yeah, and some people receive the information differently. That's why it's like, I know some people they may want it coming from a scholarly point
Hmm.
of view, a scientific point
Right.
of view. They want data and they want facts because that's how their mind works.
Hmm.
So everything doesn't come to people in the exact same way.
Right.
And yeah, that's why I accept like, I may say something to somebody and it doesn't click because I'm more of emotional intelligence. I'm
Hmm.
not a scholar or I am not into data. Like I don't do data because I can't remember it, so I don't even try.
Yeah, that's why I tried to incorporate a little bit of everything in my book because
Yes,
and I touch on the animal aspect, also the scientific aspect and the
yes,
medical
yes,
data and statistics and studies, and then I talk about climate change and
yes.
that way there's something in it for everyone, and if you read it and you still don't get it, I wish you luck.
I know. It's like, yeah, some people just aren't going to get. That's why it's important to have. I didn't know how I felt about this a few years ago, but now I'm actually for it. That's why it's important to have these companies that are creating these lab-based meats.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
think that it's still a step in the right
DNA.
direction
Yeah.
because everybody is not going to connect with any message. Some people, they want to eat their meat,
Right.
period.
Yeah.
And so for those people, all right, no
Hmm.
one can get through to you, but maybe this can appeal to you, and then we can still, use this as a way to minimize the suffering of animals.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a company reach out to me a couple years ago about that. And for people watching who don't know what we're talking about, there's companies that are taking the DNA of actual animals, of cows and other farm animals, and they're creating lab grown meat. So it's literally a steak. It's literally chicken. It is the, same meat that people are used to eating, but it doesn't have the animal cruelty side to it. It doesn't, entail enslaving animals and using, literally having them born just to be killed. So it
Mm-hmm.
is a better alternative. And, this company asked me to back it and help promote it. And as a health coach and knowing what it does to people on a health
Yeah.
level and the diseases that it leads to, I couldn't ethically do it. I think
Yes.
I'm a hypocrite if I were to back it. So I said I declined, but I can
Yeah.
appreciate it, appreciate that part of it.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I'm
No, I agree with you.
people, animals, and the planet. So, yeah, it helps with the planet, it helps with animals, it won't help with disease, unfortunately. But yeah, like you said, there's a certain subset of people that are just never, they're going to dig their heels in. They, they may be lucky genetically and they might, dodge a few bullets, or they don't mind being on multiple prescriptions and having to go in, have their chest cracked open.
Yep.
Like I said, to each his own.
That's right. That's right. My father, he agrees with the vegan message. He's like, I think what you're doing is wonderful, and what you guys are promoting is absolutely right. It's too late for me. And I'm like, no, it's not too late for you. Like,
No, the
it's,
friend who told me about veganism and got me interested in it, she was in her mid 60s, and she had just started taking heart medication because she was starting to develop heart disease. And she didn't like the way the medication was making her feel. She was tired all the time and she was gaining weight from taking it. And the
mm-hmm.
doctor basically just told her, oh, this is it. This is all we've got. And she said, well, is it going to cure me? Is it going to get rid of it? And he's like, oh, no, there's no cure for heart disease, but, it'll at least slow down your progression. So she was like, oh, to hell with this.
Yeah.
Someone had just coincidentally given her a book years before. I think it was by Dr. Neil Barnard, about preventing and reversing heart disease, or maybe it was Dr. Esselstyn.
Okay.
And she had never read it. She just shoved it up on her shelf. So she pulled it down, read it from cover to cover in one day, and literally, boom, went vegan that night. She
Wow.
either threw stuff out or gave it all away. And she literally reversed her heart disease.
Wow.
She got off the medication. All of her numbers started to reverse, her cholesterol, everything. So.
And that's the other thing, is like the people who we trust the most with our lives, with our health, with our minds, with our bodies, are the ones that need this information.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first started with Vegan Outreach, the first thing I was hired to do was me and another young lady, Zinga, we went on a tour in the South at historically Black colleges and universities.
Mm-hmm.
And we would leaflet and talk to people. And I remember, I never forget this story, there was a young lady who had lupus. And she was saying that she went plant-based, and she said she felt amazing. Yeah. She's like, her flare-ups were not as frequent. Mm-hmm. She was feeling good. She didn't experience the fatigue. Yeah. And she said that her doctor told her that in the long run, she would end up suffering more being on a plant-based diet, and that she needed red meat in her diet.
Oh my God.
And so she went back to eating animals. And I pleaded with her. I said, darling, I know I'm not a doctor. I said, but let me tell you, he is inaccurate. I was like, please.
Yeah. Do you know Dr. Brooke Goldner?
Yes.
Yeah. So, for anybody watching who doesn't know her, she spoke at my 2-day health event. She's just amazing. I mean, in every way, just an incredible person, the most warm and kind person you'll ever meet. But she literally reversed her lupus.
And I didn't know about her at the time, because I would have probably got her on the phone and made them talk right then and there. But it's possible.
Training programs, but yeah. And Dr. Goldner, I mean, she did high raw vegan, but completely got rid of it, and she was told she was never going to have kids. She's now got 2 kids. I mean, she was given basically a death sentence. You'll probably not live past your 40s. I mean, she's in her 40s. She's healthier than ever. No symptoms whatsoever. I mean, yeah, but, it's sad because these doctors don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so you can give them a little bit of grace with it, but at some point, wake up.
Yeah.
Wake the hell up.
Well, when your patient is telling you that they feel better, and that they're thriving, and you tell them, no, you're not. Yeah. You need to go back to what you were doing when you were feeling like shit.
But I mean, in the end, it's a business, and that's what so many people don't want to accept it. And I know the majority of doctors are good people. And I think if they really understood it and knew what it was all about and how it could help their patients, I think they would embrace it. But there
Yeah.
are a few doctors out there who, let's just face it, they got into medicine to make money. And
Yep.
if all of a sudden their patients could be healing themselves of all these diseases with food, they would be out of business, or I mean, they'd have to restructure their business model.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's plenty of doctors out there who are doing it and making money and doing great. I mean, I just
Yes.
recently had Dr. Joel Kahn on the show, and he's still a practicing cardiologist, but he actually helps his patients. He doesn't
Yeah.
just pump them full of drugs and then try to make money off of them on surgeries. Yeah. Yeah. Greed,
It's
I'm sorry, in general, greed is killing us. And
Yeah, it is. It's the driving force of so much of the darkness. I had recently, and I can't regurgitate it properly, but I had recently read an article on Vice.com,
mhm.
and they were explaining how the stock market profits off of police brutality. And I'm like, what? And they were talking about there are certain bonds that that Wall Street makes money off of every time someone sues the city for police brutality and wins.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, they break it down. It's just that I don't have a Wall Street type of mind, but I have my boyfriend who does read it, and he's like, yeah, this is true. And I'm just like,
Does it maybe have to do with the insurance industry?
it does have to do with insurance.
Yeah,
Yep.
that would make the most sense because they're the ones making these huge payouts.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, when you look at all the payouts they've had to give with Breonna Taylor, I mean, what was that, 12 million they had to pay her family, and now I just read about another gentleman who was murdered. They just had to pay his family 20 million. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's so sick. Our society is so sick.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
That's why, it's like people say, oh, what's the solution? And I just recently, I'm going to post it in the group. Somebody posted in the group, but nobody paid it any attention. I'm like, I'm going to post this thing. It was from the late comedian and activist Dick Gregory.
mhm.
And he had a great solution regarding police brutality, and it had to do with insurance and bonds and holding. He doesn't say it in the nicest way though. It's a raw one, and it's nice, but he delivered. It's a punch right there, and he expresses how he really feels. And he's like, legislation is the only way, and holding people, you have to make people hurt.
Yeah.
So if a police officer causes harm or kills someone,
Mhm.
and it's definitely some form of injustice, there has to be something that causes him to wish the way he worded. I'm not going to repeat how he worded because it's really, I don't know the nicest way to reverse how he said it, but he said they have to love their family more than they hate us. So if they love protecting and providing for their family more than they love killing us, then this could work. And I see it as a real form of solution. I'm like, how come this thing didn't go viral?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to resurface
Or it
that
should come
thing.
out of their pension. I've heard people say that too. It should come
Yes.
out of the police pensions.
Yep.
Or they should lose their retirement. They should have to pay for it. You
That's
murder
right.
someone as a private citizen. If we murder someone, we're the ones that have to suffer the
That's right.
consequences.
That's
We
right.
go to prison, or at the very least have to pay money. I mean, look, they couldn't lock up OJ, but in the end, every dime he makes goes to the Goldman family because they sued him on
Yes.
a private level.
That's
So
right. That's right.
the same damn thing.
That's it. That's it. That's it. And I think if we infuse that into, because we're learning that white supremacy is embedded in the police system.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
can't reform it. There's no reforming that, because you can't change people's hearts when they feel the way they feel. You have to make them accountable and make something hurt really bad
Hmm.
to hold them accountable for the actions that they take.
Yeah. Well, I always liken it to, there's a saying that priests don't become pedophiles, pedophiles become priests because of their
Mm,
victims. The
yes.
same thing, with not all, I'm not going to paint all police with a broad brush, but a large section of them, they're bullies, or they have control issues, or, they were bullied as a child, or they
Yes.
are white
Hmm.
supremacists. And so, yeah, cops don't become white supremacists. White supremacists become
Become
cops if
cops.
they want to
Yes.
be able to exert their power over people of color and take out their aggression and anger issues. I mean, it's the perfect gig for them if they've got those issues.
I'm telling you, when I was growing up, um, I lived in the inner city, but I don't remember seeing a lot of brutality, but we didn't have video recorders at that time. So, who knows what was going on. But I remember, I mean, both races. Um, the thing was corruption. Like they would, if somebody was a drug dealer, or if you got pulled over, you had a lot of money in your purse, they take your
Mhm.
money, and you didn't have any recourse.
Yeah.
So it was, we understood it from that level, like, they were bullies, and that they'll take your money and take your drugs, or
Yeah.
whatever it is that you had on you that they wanted, and there was nothing you could do about it. And good cops had to stay in their place, because they would get bullied if they opened their mouths and spoke up, which is, we see
And
that
you know
now.
what? I'm getting so sick of it. And somebody made the perfect analogy. Everybody, the bad apples, the bad apples. Well, you know what? You put a bad apple, literally a bad apple, in with a good
It gets
bunch,
rotten. It gets
they
rotten.
all go rotten. And so, yeah,
Yes,
tell
I
me
agree.
about that bad apple. They do spoil the bunch, and I'm getting tired of it with this. Oh, it's just, a few bad cops. Well, you know what? The good ones better start stepping up. The good ones better start standing up and speaking out. Otherwise, yeah, we are going to start painting you all with the broad brush.
That's right. That's right.
Because I'm sorry, but if you or I stood by and watched someone murder another person and we didn't try to intervene or stop it or speak out, and then we stood
Hmm.
back and refused to say anything, is anybody going to think we're good people?
No,
No. So
not at
why do
all.
cops get a pass?
That's true.
It's bullshit.
You're
It's total
absolutely right.
bullshit.
You're
I'm done with
absolutely
it.
right.
I'm like, okay, prove you're a good cop. Prove it.
That's
Stop
right.
with this thin blue line crap. Stop with protecting your fellow
That's right.
boys in blue. Start, if you're going to proclaim that you're a good cop, then act like it, damn it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I'm just done with that.
Yeah. No, I feel you, and I hear you, and I see you, and I agree.
Yeah, I'm absolutely done with it. But yeah, so tell me, what was the impetus for you starting the Vegans for Black Lives Matter group?
Well, the story that I stick with is that it was literally like a download of a thought that came into my mind. I was minding my own business, and something popped in my head, literally like somebody whispered in my ear, and was like, Vegans for Black Lives Matter. And I was like, oh, that's genius. And so I went, created the group, and I'm thinking 100 something, maybe 200 something people at the max over a course of time, when
Mhm.
I feel like inviting people and cultivating the group, because groups are a lot of work emotionally.
Yeah.
And I have a group right now, and I'm barely in there, because it's like having to connect with everybody. Everybody wants your attention and to talk to you. It's like, I'm no thanks. So I did not want a group. But I'm thinking, okay, this sounds like a brilliant idea. It's definitely a divine thought. I'm going to create it. And I
Mhm.
think I may have invited just like a few people that I figured might help me create, the structure of the group, because I didn't have any idea what it was going to be about.
Right.
And went to sleep. And the next day there were like 500 something people in there. I was like, how did y'all get in here?
I know I started inviting a bunch of people.
I was like, holy shit. I'm like, I'm not even ready. I don't even know what the group is going to be about. I got to go to work. I don't know what's going on. Like, I literally, and that's why I created like a thing. And my first post was like, hey, this was a divine thought. Let's create the group together, because I literally did not have a clue what the theme was going to be, what we're going to talk about, if it was, but I knew it had to be unity. And I knew it had to be about us coming together and learning how to tolerate each other and build together. But I was shocked, also happy that there were that many people that were interested in being in the group. And then, the next day it was like 1,000 people. And I'm like, yeah. And so then I was like, okay, this group, this is too much. So I had people that stepped up, was like, hey, do you need some help? I'm like, please.
Yeah.
So then we created, because we were just letting people come in the group. And I'm like, if we do it at this rate, we'll have over 20,000 people in this group. I'm like, we got to create some rules and get strict and some structure, because it was just too many people just coming in. And then I saw the people that were coming in, the content, and it was just so heavy because it was coming right off of George Floyd.
Yeah.
And I was up late at night reading people's posts and reading threads, which was like physically making me sick, because people were expressing how white people were expressing their guilt and their grief for just now making the connection.
Wow.
Log on my personal, because something was going on with the shared one here. So sorry about that.
On my side.
Yeah, and you froze on mine. I thought it was you, but I was like, oh, it's actually me. All right. I think the last thing I was saying was how I was just connecting with all the sadness and the pain in the group, and reading the comments and how people were just like hurting on both sides. And it was very, very overwhelming. Very overwhelming feeling. We had, like I was saying, we had a lot of the white people were saying how guilty they felt for not ever paying this any attention or believing that race was a real issue in this country. And they're like, wow, you guys have been dealing with this.
I just don't get it. I don't get how this is like the first that you've heard about it. I don't understand.
I think it's very obviously it has to be. And I've had to try to delve into this, and because trying to understand how you can have a reality to where you don't see this, but I think you can walk around in your own reality. I don't know how you could do it for so long, but I think it's very easy for people to be capable of going to work, going to school. You hear it, you see it, but then you're just like, oh, that's horrible, and then block it out. And because it's not affecting anyone in your reality, it hasn't affected your life, it's like, oh, this is just an incident, or, oh, wow, he resisted, that's why it happened. Creating excuses for why these things are going on, but focusing on your own joys and your own pleasures and your own things that are driving your life. And so I think people are capable of just really doing this for a very long time. And then when something does arise, they create an excuse for why it happened.
Yeah.
Because they don't want it to interrupt their fantasy that they're living in. And so, with George Floyd, with that eruption, and it was an eruption, like, it's like everybody I knew just like had an eruption.
Yeah.
Couldn't deny it. Like, nobody could look at that and be like, well, it looks like you couldn't say anything. This man wasn't moving. He was in a submissive position, and this officer had his hands in his pocket with his knee. You can tell he's pressing, and people are begging, and you got another man blocking for help. Like, no one could look away from that. And I think that, it's sad that he went through that experience, but his death is it woke people up.
Now, do you think, I've asked other guests this, do you think that it would have blown up like it did and people would have paid as much attention and taken the steps that they did and been out in the streets in the numbers that they were if we weren't under lockdown for COVID? Or do you think that people would have just been like, oh yeah, that's horrible, and then gone back to their lives?
That's a really, really good question. And I can't say for sure on either side, but I do believe that COVID was a contributor because a lot of people were sitting at home
Mm-hmm.
and already feeling despair and already, in a sense, starting to question this system and this program,
Yeah.
and feeling oppressed because they were losing kind of, in a sense, their own freedom, not being able to go about and do things that the way they were used to doing. So I do believe that it was a contributing factor, because otherwise, the priority would have been, oh God, this is horrible. You've been outraged, but I got to go to work tomorrow.
Right.
I got to,
That was
this is terrible, but I can't go and march and protest because I can't call off. I have to go. But people were sitting around so people could take all that anger
yeah.
and take it outside and take it to the streets,
Yeah.
and release it in that way. Because I remember this was probably in 2018. It was Philando Castile in Minnesota,
Yeah.
when the officer shot inside the car, and this guy wasn't doing anything, but he tells him,
Yeah.
get me your ID. He reaches, does what he tells him, and he starts shooting like
And he
he
told
lost
him
his
too, he
mind.
said, I have a permit, I'm a gun
Yes.
owner, and I have a gun. I'm just letting you know. I mean, yeah, and in front of his two kids too.
I couldn't.
Two kids were in the back seat. Yeah.
Yes, I couldn't believe it.
Unbelievable.
And I was outraged. And to me, that should have been an uproar. But again, I think because people are so afraid, and I'm part of it too. I'm not going to act like oh, you guys are afraid. I'm part of the fear factor as well. Like you're scared to make certain decisions that may end up leading to you having to fight more for your own survival.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, do I go out in the streets and do this, or do I just go back to my normal programming so that my life isn't changed overnight and go back to this?
I mean, we got to be real. It should have blown up after Rodney King.
Oh God, yes.
That was the first video recording of police brutality in all its glory, on people's TV screens constantly.
Yes.
It was undeniable. I mean, the man was on the ground begging, trying to, protect himself, trying to crawl away. I mean, and they just kept beating him and kept beating him. I mean,
yes.
I remember I was in my early 20s and I was so freaking pissed off. I mean, I wanted to go to LA, but after I saw the stuff that was going down, I was afraid to go, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was on the protester side, but I didn't know how it was going to be, what the reception would be, because people were so outraged. I mean, and then for them to all get off, I mean, that's what I mean, though. How do people not know? I don't get it. I don't get it.
And I think too, and this is something I feel like a lot of people, if not more, have their own, and it seems like we're going through a purge right now, to where whatever's in you is starting to come out. Like everybody, if you got some hate in you, it's coming out. Like it's almost like a magical thing that's going on. Everybody's purging what's inside of them.
It's, he said, hey, green light, do whatever you want, let your freak flag fly. I mean, say whatever you want, and treat people however you want.
Exactly. And that's exactly what's happening. And I think that most people have had their own racism. And in this sense, it's like, okay, you all were born into this, and the world automatically gave you these, free privilege and passes, and you just don't know that the whole world doesn't operate. I tell you, when I left, I was raised in Cleveland, and I left there when I was like 32, 33 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved to Miami, Florida. I went into depression and culture shock because I was like, I didn't know this. I thought the world was what I saw on television, on the news, and
Mm-hmm.
my surroundings. I didn't know that there were people of my complexion that were Cuban. I thought Cuban people had a lighter complexion. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that you could be French in my complexion. I saw people from Egypt, I met people, and I was like, I felt tricked because I had been living my reality like this. And so from that standpoint, I can understand how people, you're in a certain environment and everyone else around you is the same way. And
Yeah,
in Cleveland, there wasn't yeah, you're literally in a bubble. And I remember I even went through depression from it because I was just like, I feel like I'm just now becoming a human being. And I'm like, all these people, and they're beautiful, and this, and
mm-hmm.
all the culture. And in Miami, the Latin community was the prevalent community. They had the jobs, they had the businesses. And I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
In Cleveland at that time, they were an oppressed community. So to see them thriving, I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. I felt like I had just become a human being. So
Yeah.
I can, in a sense, understand how you can go your whole life and think that everything is one way and then end up going through a shock to where you're like, holy shit. But I think most people that are non-POC, most people that are white, have some natural form of racism in them. And that doesn't mean like you're walking around with a robe on and burning crosses, but it does mean that you've been programmed to have a natural form of superiority, which we should all have. We should
Or
all
biased,
feel.
at least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Even people that
So,
in my life who I wouldn't classify as racist, they still have biased views, or, they put people in a box. It's just, oh, you're from that
yeah,
culture or that religion or that nationality. You're all this way. Even if it's not negative, they still stereotype, you know?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And the powers that be have done an amazing job of playing chess and putting themselves in certain positions and programming. I mean, because, there's a couple of groups I'm in that are about Black people exiting the United States and moving into other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're all finding that is in common with all of this is that no matter where you go on the planet, there is racism.
Oh,
Like, it's everywhere. Like, there is no place you're going to go where it doesn't exist unless you find a tribe, an
yeah.
indigenous tribe that hasn't been touched, and they'll probably kill you for trying to come into their tribe.
Yeah. Yes. So true.
But
Yeah, I mean, that's why
but
the Black Lives Matter protests took off all over the country or all over the world. I
yes,
mean,
yes,
yeah, because people saw what happened to George Floyd, and then they went, yeah, that happens here. That happens in my country. And like,
yes,
you and I were talking before I started recording about how I've thought about it too. Getting away from it because it's just so abhorrent
hmm,
to me to see this hate and just the ignorance. It drives me insane. I mean, I always tell people the only people I'm prejudiced against are prejudiced people. That's it.
yeah.
That's my only prejudice in the world. And but yeah, it is everywhere. And then, like I said to you, I'm not going to let them win. This
Yes,
is our country. This country was founded on the melting pot, on every
yes,
color, every nationality, every religious group, every creed, coming together, and the one place that you can be who you are and not be expected to fit to a certain mold. And I'm not going to let them take that away from us. To hell with that. I will fight tooth and nail. And my husband gets upset with me, but I'm like, I think we're headed for another civil war.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a powder keg right now.
Yeah. And those founding principles, that's what it's supposed to be. And that's what it's been for some people, but it's never been that way for everyone. It's like, yeah, you can come here and you can work for pennies on the dollar. You can come here and you can be oppressed. And, for Black people, being here, it was never, like he said, make it great again. That was never a reality. I remember watching, I don't know if it was a meme or something, but there was a question posed. What is your favorite time in history that you would like to experience? And I'm like, yeah, the future, because
yeah, Back to the Future.
Yeah, like there is no time on this planet or pre-colonization, maybe there was some good stuff going on then, but
You're not excited about the Platinum Plan? What's wrong with you, Gwenna? Oh my God.
I haven't even read that crap. Like I saw something about it, I was like, oh, I'm not even gonna.
Yeah.
Some days where I'm like,
on Facebook. So let me get your take, because to me, I heard that name and I was like, oh my God, that is the most racist ass name. Like he could have called it the 40 ounce or Cristal Plan, and it would have been just as racist. It's like the white racist person's version or idea of what would appeal to their stereotype of Black people,
Platinum, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, how about the Civil Rights, Act, or the, something about empowerment and.
That's because he's not talking to people outside of his circle. And even if he's talking to Black people, like, you got your Candace Owens and
We started on her.
All these type of people
Self-loathing.
Oh gosh, it's horrible. He won't even say Black Lives Matter. I saw a thread where somebody said, now explain to me what he's done to be racist. Sometimes it's not he's done things, but sometimes it's what you don't do. It's what you don't say.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, he's said plenty. I mean, I've just finished reading Michael Cohen's book, and he talks in there about how, Trump never specifically used racial slurs in front of him, but what he would do is he told Michael Cohen, have you ever seen a country led by a Black person that wasn't a shithole, that wasn't total shit? I mean, being sued back in the 70s with his dad because they were discriminating against Black people renting from them. I mean, there's plenty,
And then my thing, his people won't talk about is like, okay, so he did a tweet where a couple was saying white power.
Yeah.
He released a tweet. Yeah, you deleted it because that was a dog whistle. But you're very conscious and very well aware of what the hell it is you're tweeting. There was nothing in there that would have been tweetable.
Yeah, no. And the other night, I mean, he was just at a rally the other night telling these people about how they have the good genes. That is a racist dog whistle.
Did he say that? I missed that one.
Oh yeah, he said that. And wow. The thing is too, it goes back to things that he said in the past where he was very focused in previous interviews and his ideas of the past, of the 80s and 90s, where he talked about good genetics and how you have to have good genetics, and his family has them. And yeah, the guy is racist as fuck. I mean, it's just, everybody who knows him knows it. I mean, Michael Cohen spent 10 years with him, and he said, yeah, he's racist. Absolutely.
And it's just crazy that there's so many people on this planet that are praising that type of behavior. And, I'm really concerned for November.
Yeah.
I'm very concerned for November. I've already been experiencing a lot of microaggressions
Mm.
out in public, and because people, will look and people are angry. They don't want to lose their power or
Yeah.
lose their seat at the throne. And so, I notice some certain times people look at me and they'll give me a dirty look, or people are more aggressive in their driving and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, election time, it doesn't matter which way it goes. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a shit show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why I say too, I think that there's going to be, I think there's going to be some violence, some
Yep.
major violence, one way or the other. I'm
Yeah.
already seeing, small bits of it in different states and at different
Yes.
events. I mean, we just had one literally here where I lived for 25 years, lived in Yorba Linda, California.
Yes.
Horrible over the weekend. And yeah,
Now, wait a minute, what happened over the weekend?
so there was a Black Lives Matter rally, or actually it was a protest. I think it was about Breonna Taylor, because I
Okay.
heard and I saw some posts on Twitter that they were chanting things about Breonna Taylor and the cops that weren't indicted. And so there was a huge counter protest group that showed up and here's what's really telling to me. You've got people asking for equality. You've got people saying, my life should matter as much as yours, not more than yours,
That's right.
but it should matter as much as yours. That's all they're asking for. And they're out there saying, we want justice for a young woman who was literally in her bed asleep when
Mm-hmm.
cops barged in for no reason, by the way, had no reason to be there. They already had their perpetrator in custody,
Mm-hmm.
barge in and shoot her and kill her, and there's no consequences for them. That's all. They just want people to see her, acknowledge that she was a human being that deserved to live, deserved to be happy, same as everyone else. She was someone's child, and her
Yes.
life matters. And that's
That's
all they're
right.
asking for. And you've got these assholes, these racist, bigoted pricks, because it was mostly men out there.
Mm-hmm.
And what are they doing? They've got flags with Trump on it. If that doesn't tell you that he's racist and his base, a good subsection of his base is racist, at least the ones who are going to take the time to go out there and do that, and then they're chanting USA. So what you're saying is the USA is against Black lives. The USA doesn't care about Black lives. That's what you're telling people
That's
when you
right.
do that. And I mean, how much more clear does it need to be? They're not out there saying, oh, well, all lives should matter. No, they're saying Trump. They're saying USA.
Yes.
That is your counter message against Black lives should matter.
That's right. It's crazy.
That's it. That's that's the bottom line.
Yeah, and like you said,
It got really heated. The Black Lives Matter people were on one side of the highway because it's a main highway. It's Imperial Highway. And
Mm-hmm.
then the Trump protesters were on the other side. Well, they crossed the 6-lane highway, or I think in that area of the street it's 4, but they crossed the major highway to go get in the face of the Black Lives Matter protesters. And there were all kinds of videos of them up in their faces, screaming at them. When the people were chanting about Breonna Taylor, the counter protesters were chanting, fuck that bitch. I mean, seriously?
Ooh.
Yeah. So,
Ooh. That's hatred.
Their events. I mean, fuck Kyle Rittenhouse. What if we showed up and said about the guy that was killed in Portland? Should we show up and say, fuck him?
Exactly.
That's
pure hatred. That's just pure hatred.
That is just evil.
Yep.
You're going to say that to someone's child who was murdered for nothing, for doing nothing but living her life. Yeah, it's evil. It is just evil. And
Wow.
as I've said, it needs to be put down. And I've had people, I have a lot of anti-gun friends. I personally, I think we need much stricter laws on who gets a gun.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that people should have a right to bear arms in this country,
Yes.
especially with who we have in charge right now. My husband has 2 safes full of guns. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
about to give them up. In fact, I told him I want to start going shooting with him more because I need to get better at it because of what I see
Yeah.
going on in this country. It's just,
Yes.
he
I'm definitely a believer
purposely didn't
in
say that.
defending. Yeah. Well, it's like, I wish there were no guns at all on the planet, that it wasn't an
Nobody had
invention.
a gun. That would be great too. But the fact
Yep.
is, they do have guns.
Yes, they
Got a
do.
lot of guns, and we need to protect ourselves. That's
That's right.
becoming more and more evident every day. And so I
That's
had
right.
some backlash on Facebook because I told people now would be a good time if you don't have a firearm, and people got pissed at me. But you know what?
You have to defend yourself. This isn't
Yeah,
about going out and looking for trouble
no,
and
you
wanting to hurt
can
people. You
murder
have to be in a
people.
position to defend yourself.
Exactly.
Because, yeah, because
Exactly.
like you said, if a civil war breaks out, I don't want to be somebody sitting in the house waiting to be a
Mhm.
victim.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And with the unemployment rates and how our government is completely dropping the ball, I mean, they just took off on vacation again. They just literally took off. We've got, you know, 12 million plus people unemployed going, I mean, for months now. We've got almost 1 million people filing for unemployment every single week, new claims, and they're
Hmm.
off on freaking vacation. People are going to start getting desperate. People can't pay their bills. They can't afford
That's
to put food
right.
on the table.
That's right.
You know, this is a absolute powder keg. I'm telling
Yes.
you. And so, yeah, I'm not looking out to go out and murder anyone. God, no. Especially as a vegan. But you
Yes.
come after me and mine? Oh, hell yeah.
That's
Hell
right.
yeah.
That's
I did
right.
not grow up in, this happy little home where, I mean, we had a ton of guns. We had a lot of
Yeah.
guns in our house. And, it was not a happy home. It was a violent home. And so I learned to fight. And
Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to come after me or mine. And
I
so,
heard that.
yeah. And I keep telling people the biggest mistake the right is going to make is thinking that the left doesn't like or own guns. That is one of their biggest mistakes, is falling for the right
Yeah.
wing propaganda about that.
That's right. That's right. And I'm sure that's what they're probably counting on. And it's such a scary thought of a civil war, because if he loses, he's going to encourage that.
Oh yeah.
And the way that they worship his toenails, they're going
Hmm.
to do exactly all that dog whistling.
Oh, you just have such a nasty thought picture in my head. Oh my God.
Yeah, November is that particular week. Um, I'm definitely taking, safety precautions,
Mhm.
and gonna minimize my time on the road
Yeah.
and
I think
in
it's going
certain
to go on
areas.
for a while, though. I think because
I
of
agree.
mail-in voting, I think it's going to be, it could be weeks or months. I mean, and he's already gearing up. He's already said he's hired, literally, there was just an article talking about how he's gotten together thousands of attorneys
Hmm.
across the country to
Mm.
fight in case he loses. But
Wow.
yeah, I mean, everything is on the line for him. I mean, we just found out that he's broke. So he has to find a way to put off those people he owes money because he's got more going out by far than he has coming in. And he's got a lot of debt coming due in the next 4 years, and he's facing prison time. So,
That's right. So he's going to fight. He's going to do
oh,
whatever he has to do to
mhm,
preserve. You're right. He's going to
yeah,
do whatever he's got to
he's
do.
a desperate man, and desperate people do
Yes.
desperate things.
Yes, they
So,
do. Wow.
yeah, but like I said,
Oof.
we can't give up on our country. It's our country, it's not theirs. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can go find somewhere else.
No.
They can go, I've heard a lot of these people on the right talking about moving to Panama. I'll help you pack.
Oh, they're talking about going to Panama?
Drive you to the airport. Yep. Yeah.
Panama off the list.
Yeah. Yeah, because apparently, they're good with owning a firearm and all this stuff, and so they like it there. So I'm like, hey, have at it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
I'll either drive you to the airport or I will pay for an Uber.
It's going to be interesting to see.
Get all your friends. Get all your racist friends. Let's go.
And what happens is if, even though this wouldn't happen, it's a fantasy, but if, say, everybody left them to this country or they went to their own country, with that type of mindset, all they do is find another subset of people to oppress and make a victim. So it's not, there's really no cure for that because this is a mindset.
Yeah, and what I find ironic and hysterical is that they always like to say that people on the left have, this sense of entitlement and they're victims. It is 100% the opposite because they blame people of color for everything that's wrong in their life. And, part of it is programming and mainstream media and the government doing that and otherizing people. You got, like Dr. Phil always says, rise above your raisin. You got to take responsibility and look at your own life, your own actions, and analyze, is this true? Is this belief true or not?
Yes.
But it's so easy. And I've seen it even with people in my own life. They would rather blame Black and brown people for everything they don't have, everything that isn't working right in their life. And I look at them and some of them are the most miserable assholes on the planet. And I'm like, no, you don't have the job you want. You don't have the friends you want. You don't have the things you want in life because you're an idiot and you're a miserable person and nobody likes you.
Now that's some cold hard truth right there.
Yeah, I have a tendency to be a little blunt and tell the truth. So people always say, if you want to know the truth, go ask Gina. If you want to be lied to, don't
even go there. Don't even try it. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what is going on next year this time. Yeah, because this was a lot of stress, and one thing is that I think people they wonder how has so many people have reached out to me. They're like, I don't know how Black people have been enduring this all this time, and this usually comes from people that kind of had the blinders on and just didn't have the awareness, and they're like, how do you all function? Because one thing I noticed in the group is, because here's the thing, when you bring Black people and white people to become allies, people think that means, oh, this is an instant connection and friendship, but we're gonna change the world together. That's not how it goes. Like, there's a lot of painful conversations, there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of hurt feelings, there's a lot of triggering, there's a lot of feeling insulted. I'm talking about on both sides. We had a situation this weekend where in the group, everybody like swarmed on a guy like bees on honey because he asked some questions that were just like incredibly triggering to a lot of the Black people. And it's like when you have two cultures come together to try to unify, and I always want people to understand, don't expect this to be all beautiful. Be able to withstand some of the pain that's going to come with it, because what I find often is that if there's a conversation taking place, or someone gets corrected, or someone gets kind of scolded for saying something that is offensive, or just anything that can create a misunderstanding, oftentimes, and I find it's often more so with white women, they're like, I'm out of here. Like I had one lady, she had sent me a Facebook friend request. I really don't like accepting friend requests from people in the group that I don't know.
Yeah.
Because the second they get mad, they go on social media and they're this, and then they want to block you and message me and tell me all these crazy things and don't give me a chance to respond and then block me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there was a post in the group where someone asked a specific question to the Black, Indigenous, people of color in the group. They had a specific question. Mm-hmm. So she chimes in, and she's white. So somebody was like, hey, and I couldn't tell if this was a white person or a white passing person, but she's like, hey, this question was it says right in the beginning that this is for Black people. Mm-hmm. Why are you answering? And she's like, oh, I didn't know. And I don't even know what that acronym meant. And so they kind of got into a little back and forth. So the lady tells everybody, I'm going to screenshot this conversation and tell everybody how horrible you all are. And she did. So she goes on social media and she's like, I'm done with Black Lives Matter. I'm not doing anything with Black. And it's just like, I've had people in the group, we've got into knockdown, drag out verbal disagreements. And I haven't kicked them out of the group because I'm like, well, look, if you're still an ally, I can handle having a disagreement with you. What I can't handle is someone that is in the group that's a obvious racist, that's in there being a troll, or someone that is anti-BLM. We don't have time to try to convert your heart. You got to go. But if you're an ally and there's a disagreement, why are you running? Can't run every time there's a little bit of pain or a little bit of animosity. We've mastered how to sit with hurt feelings and sit with major disagreements and still look and smile so that we can function and get along and keep our jobs. So we've mastered that. So it's interesting when I see somebody. So sometimes it's like the sensitivity isn't just a Black Lives Matter issue, it's a human issue. Learn how to sit with a little bit of pain or a little bit of hurt feelings, even if you can't resolve it, even if there's no beautiful solution in the end. It's okay to have a disagreement with another human being and it not get resolved, but you both still want the same positive outcome for the world. So that's something that has been
that experience in the group. I mean, within the first few weeks of it forming, there were a bunch of young people, and we had I don't know if you ever saw the conversation, but there was a back and forth about what my version of defund the police means versus their, they are 100% abolish it, get rid of it, no more cops whatsoever anywhere. They're a lot younger than I am.
Yeah.
I get a little bit of more experience in life. So I get that that's not, in my mind, at least, that's not going to happen 100%. Even though it needs top to bottom, you need to take a lot of the funding away and divert it to other areas and gut some places completely and start over. But yeah, there was a back and forth, and they got kind of insulting, and it was like, we're just trying to share opinions here, and my opinion differs doesn't mean it's any less valid than yours.
That's it. That's true.
Back with, that yours is based on your experience in life, and I'm like, and so is yours.
Exactly.
I mean, that's how we all form our opinions.
That's right.
Experience and what we believe, and our interactions with different situations and people. And
that's right.
But it was like, I'm not going to run out of the group. I mean, a couple of people, and I was taking incoming from several people at once, but it's like I said, you got to hit me a lot harder. Knock me down.
I hear that. That's why I'm like, y'all get mad over this? Like, this isn't even, I'm like, this hurts your feelings to the point where you want to leave the whole movement of Black Lives Matter and then post about it because somebody corrected you on getting involved in a conversation that wasn't geared towards you. And so I'm like, it's like sometimes the sensitivity is just like, come on now, if you're going to be an ally, be a fucking ally.
Yeah.
And be tough with it, because if a civil war does break out, we don't need that weak shit. We need somebody that's going to be, balls to the wall, like, hey, what's up? What's going on? You know what I mean? Like all this crying because somebody corrected you.
Yeah.
It's like, we can't have that. So it's like, just learn how to build your emotions, your emotional strength.
Yeah, and I think in general, because people of color have had to deal with so much adversity throughout their
Mm-hmm.
lives, yeah, you are just stronger. You are
Yes.
tougher, you know? And I mean, not that white people haven't dealt with any adversity or, some people
Right.
obviously have gone through so much more in different
Yes.
ways, sexual assault
Right.
or whatever,
Yes.
and you can grow a thicker skin. But yeah, I mean, to be targeted constantly just for having more melanin in your skin,
Mm-hmm.
it toughens you up,
Yes.
you know? And it
Exactly.
makes you more guarded too,
Exactly.
which is
Exactly.
natural.
And
And
so, yeah, and definitely guarded, more sensitive.
yeah,
Like when we had the situation this weekend where someone asked all these questions and all the Black people were like, because I kept seeing this post being reported and I was trying to get some self-care and I'm like, I do not want to deal with you all today. Give me a break. And I was getting all these messages and reports from this post and people like, can you get him out of the group? And I'm like, no, like y'all deal with it. And I'm like, Black people, I'm like, your white allies are in the comments fighting for you. Just sit back and relax. You don't have to come in and fight everything. Let our white allies, they want this drama. Like, let them handle it. Like, they're interested. I saw the people that were responding back to them. I'm like, let them do the work for us. They want to do it.
yeah,
Sit on back and relax. But yeah, the sensitivity is just,
yeah. Yeah, and I told someone this, I used to watch Dr. Phil all the time,
mm-hmm.
and he had couples on from time to time, and they would have issues with each other's family. And, like that, typically it was like the wife had issues with the husband's family, like the mom didn't like her or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the husband would try to sit back and just be like, oh, I'm not going to get involved. And Dr. Phil would always take them to task and say, no, those are your people.
Yes.
That's your people. You deal
That's
with
right.
your people. Your wife doesn't have the lifelong relationship with them that you do. So it's going to end badly if they
Yes.
start brawling.
Yes.
You are the one that has the lifelong relationship. You are the one that they have the sensitivity towards and the love for.
That's right.
Your job to go in there and set them straight
That's
and
right.
make amends and figure it out. And that's how I look at it. I don't
Yeah.
look at this as, oh, people of color are supposed to step up and deal with this. White people are supposed to, that's our people causing the
Yes.
shit. That's our people being aggressive and cruel and violent and harming people. That's our job,
Yeah. That's right.
When they
That's
say,
right.
go get your boy or go get your
Yeah.
girl, yeah,
Yes.
that's it.
That's right.
We need to step up. It's
That's
our job.
right. Yep. And I was proud. So many did. And I had to tell a lot of the Black people, I'm like, just calm down. They got this.
I was working
They're
with
handling it.
kids. I didn't see anything.
Oh God. Yeah, I had to close the comments because I think there was like 160 something comments on this particular one. And I closed them because it was like people were just not able to handle, the questions that he had. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so it's like,
Jumped in.
but he handled himself. Like people were going at him and he was like, okay, thank you for educating me.
Oh,
He was receiving all the criticism and all the blows. He took it like a champion. So I got to give it to him. He wasn't defensive. He took it like a champ.
wow. Well,
And that's beautiful.
Credit then, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
that's
most
beautiful when you
people, like you said, tuck tail and run as soon as it gets a little touchy.
yeah,
They don't want to look in the mirror or challenge their long held beliefs. So
that's right.
yeah, that's
So I'm
good.
like, good. This is how we learn from each other,
Mm-hmm.
And the person asked this question, he's asked really weird questions before, and I could tell wherever he grew up, he was probably incredibly sheltered. And I think he's not in this country. And so I recognize that his questions, even though they were very triggering, he doesn't understand the Black culture to know, like, dude, you're going to get attacked for this one, you know. But it's like, okay, we'll let the question go. But I applaud him for being able to accept all the criticism and do it with respect and not get sensitive and say, I'm leaving. He handled it well. And, you know, that's all you can hope for in these situations. Otherwise, how do we learn from each other if we can't ask questions? Because there's questions I want to pose in a group, but I'm like, shit, if I ask this question, I might get canceled. So I'm like, let me just see if somebody else does it and let them do it.
Yeah. You know, and you said earlier that there is racism, obviously, and bigotry that goes on all over the world. What I've noticed, though, and your comments about this guy made me think about it, was I encountered people from other parts of the world who, they may know about racism, but what's different here in the United States is the different level of police brutality.
Yes.
Because I had a guy and I could tell immediately that he was not from here, because he was commenting about, this is when the George Floyd story broke. And so it was very fresh. I mean, it was like that week. And this guy, he was hearing all these ridiculous conspiracy theories that were going around. And because people were saying, oh, well, the license plate on the police car just said police, that's obviously fake. Well, no, in that state, that's what it says. I looked it up because I thought that was strange too, right? In California, they have regular license plates. Well, in that state, it does just say police. That's the way it is. So, but then he was talking about, you know, somebody getting out of the ambulance that they had on tactical gear or something, or a bulletproof vest. And then he was talking about how casually the cop was kneeling on his neck, like people were videotaping it and he didn't even care. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, you're not from America, are you? And he's like, oh, how did you figure that out? And I said, because that is how cops act in the United States. Because they do get away with it all the time, because there is qualified immunity, because they have murdered people ad nauseum for decades, for centuries, and they get away with it. So they don't care if they're videotaped. That's why he was so casual about it. It's an everyday occurrence here.
Yep.
And so, the guy was kind of shocked to hear me say that. But, you know, instead of me attacking him, I let him know, no, you're just, you don't get it. This is why we're protesting.
Yes.
This is why people are pissed off, because is a very common occurrence.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, it's we are in some really interesting times. It's funny because, you know, when this year started, it was either I think it was like towards like the end of January. I dream a lot and get, you know, information and downloads and stuff sometimes. And I woke up one day and I woke up crying like uncontrollably. And then as I was trying to remember what it was that I saw that made me cry so hard, it was the memory was being like, I could feel it was like retracting. So I couldn't remember what it was, but I just remembered the feeling of, oh my God. And I remember telling a friend, I said, I think this year is going to have a lot of heartbreaking moments in it. I said, because whatever I dreamt, it felt global. It didn't just feel like my life or something that I was experiencing. I said, I felt like it was the whole world.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, now to see all of this, and then it ain't over yet, you know, like it seems like every month has a new can of whoop ass. Every month is bringing something brand new. And I'm like, all right, October, come on, I'm ready this time. Like, come on with it.
I know. When those killer hornets showed up, I was like, oh, come on, really? seriously, like, yeah, there is a God and he is sending us a message. He's like, you all just need a time out. I'm done with your shit.
When I saw those killer hornets and there was a picture of somebody holding it, I was like, game over.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah.
I'm like, those things look like they kill on contact.
Oh my God. Yeah. Somebody said they were out walking their dog and somebody came up to them and they were trying to say that, oh, see everything going on, the floodings and the fires and the coronavirus pandemic, God is telling us that he's not happy about the way that we're going in this country, and, that he wants us to do better and put his word front and center. And I said, why don't you just tell him maybe God is pissed off because we literally elected Satan.
Exactly.
He's like, no. Yeah, wrong person.
I know, and it's crazy because it's like, if you believe in God and you think this is a godly way to run a country, and let's be honest, whoever runs a country kind of helps influence the whole planet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like here, it's like they have influence, because this country bullies, in my opinion, every other country on the planet, or will manipulate situations and war and make it like, oh, they did this to us.
Yeah.
No, you just really wanted their, whatever precious metals or oil that they had.
Yeah. And Democrat and Republicans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The establishment in general.
And, and I hate to say it, I'm going to be very gentle in how I say this, but it's like right now we're trying to figure, I think everybody's pretty much decided at this point. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, it's almost like, which cup of Kool-Aid are you going to drink?
Yeah.
It's kind of
two shit choices again. I'll just say it for you. I say it every day on this channel, so I'm just going to say it for you. It's like Nina Turner said, you got a full shit sandwich or a half a shit sandwich. Which one do you want? I mean, yeah.
That's the truth. That is the truth. It's just like, oh, great. Because, yeah, they're part of the same coin. It's like none of these is going to save you. What I would hope for is, the establishment of a third party, or the complete abolishment of this entire position to begin with. Because I don't think any one person needs to be in control like this.
Yeah.
It's just not.
I don't know if you're aware of it, but that's why I'm excited about the movement for People's Party.
Okay, I've heard of it. Okay.
By Dr. Cornel West, Marianne Williamson, a lot of high-profile people are getting behind it because it's focused on no corporate money, no corporate control. It's for the people, by the people, of the people. It is 100% people powered. And so they're not looking to be a, quote, third party. They want to be a new major party. Yeah. And so I signed up to volunteer with them because I 100% believe, I know there's two trains of thought. People think that we can get on board the Democratic Party and make it change. And yeah, there's been a lot of new progressives brought on board, but they don't have the numbers yet to really make a shift, to really put the brakes on and tell Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to shove it.
Yes.
That's what needs to happen. If we have more progressives right now in charge, this many people unemployed, on the verge of financial ruin.
Yes.
Going through all their savings, if they even had any.
Yes.
Who can't, literally in July, before the extra $600 unemployment checks ended, 30% of Americans that they surveyed said that they didn't have enough to eat that month. That's abysmal. That is abominable. In the United States of America, it's disgusting that
And
our country is like this. But yet
and
you
to
have
not give people.
freaking billionaires like Trump who aren't paying their
Mhm,
taxes,
mhm.
and Jeff Bezos.
And then the money that was, the corporate money they were sent. I remember hearing that Outback Steakhouse got 50 million. What the fuck do they need 50 million? Apparently, I guess they sent it back after everybody was like outraged.
Yeah.
But it's like, what do they need with $50 million?
The peasants, we the people get our 100 or $1,200 check. Here you go. But we're literally socializing Wall Street by pumping $1 trillion a day into it, so that the wealthy can have their stock market, keep
Yep.
a smile on their face, so they can buy back their stocks.
That's right.
Yeah, it's
right.
social, as they always say, socialism for the wealthy, capitalism for the rest of us schlumps.
That's
I
right.
mean,
That's right.
yeah, so we need a major change, whether it comes from within the Democratic Party or from this movement for a People's Party. But I'm excited because they've got Nina Turner on board. They've got all kinds of people who are, and I really think that they're going to nominate Nina Turner for their presidential candidate in 2024.
That would be and I think this is the right time.
Absolutely.
Well, everybody is, because most people are like, even with the choosing of, Biden, it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, nobody's really that excited.
Yep. Yeah, because there's certain things, I'm concerned with certain things like forced vaccinations and, wars. Like Marianne Williamson was the only one that was talking about peace.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't like, how can you run this country and you're not talking about world peace?
Yeah, no, because they all get money from, the military industrial complex. They all get paid by all of these companies, all these corporations that build the tanks and make the ammunitions. And yeah, they got to keep them happy. So yeah, they're not going to stop that any more than they're going to talk about importing drugs from Canada to bring the prices down, or Medicare for all, because they get so much money from the insurance companies, so much money from, all these other entities and big pharma. So yeah, they're not going to cut off their nose to spite their face. This is why the root of everything, my number one thing, is getting money out of politics. If we got money out of politics, it would domino. Everything else would fall into place. It is the root of evil in the political sphere, You
don't think that the military is a huge force? Because I feel like we keep talking about defund the police, but to me, they're the kind of the babies, and the mamas and the papas are the military.
Oh yeah, they need to be not defunded, because I do believe that we need some sort of military for attack, but their budget is so overblown. And again, it's the Democrats and the Republicans that are to blame with that shit, because Pelosi had no problem. She pushed through Trump's military budget. In fact, she gave him more than what he was asking for this year. So for all the liberals out there who think that, the Democratic Party is the savior, no. The progressives in the Democratic Party will save us. The populists will save us. Bernie Sanders could have saved us.
I know.
But yeah, this shit, this half a shit sandwich, as Nina Turner puts it. We're not. All we're going to get is indigestion.
On either side, that's the truth.
Yeah, so we need a massive overhaul. So again, whether it comes from just pushing more and more progressives into the Democratic Party, or this new party, the movement for a People's Party, but really great people involved with it. So I'm
definitely going to look. I remember hearing about it, but I just wasn't sure how serious it had gotten. But now talking to you, I think I'm going to definitely do some digging and get behind that.
Yeah, you can watch. They did a whole right after the Dems and the Republicans did their convention. The
Mm-hmm.
Movement for a People's Party did an online convention that was like 5 hours long.
Wow.
Yeah, so they had all different speakers. I mean, some independents, some progressives, even some, more populist Republicans, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just everybody who thinks that there's got to be a new way. We've got to
Yeah.
focus on the 99%, the working people in this country, because they're the ones that keep getting the shaft constantly.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm excited about it. But you can watch the whole thing on YouTube.
I will. I'm going to check it out. Especially, I love Cornel West.
Yes.
Love him. So I definitely, anything that he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be in.
Yeah,
That was
like I said, I
fantastic.
signed up immediately. I was like, I'm getting involved with this. They already did a training on outreach,
Okay.
people. They did like a 2-day training thing online. So I'm excited, and there's not a lot
Yeah.
of people yet signed up in California. So yeah, I would love to do it with you.
Yeah, because by the time, the next 4 years, when it's time for the next election, I think people, so now is the time to get this thing going and to start.
It takes a
4 years
while.
is enough time to get everybody programmed and get them ready for it. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. You spent way more time with me than I know you promised, and so I appreciate
Oh,
it because
no
I know how
worries.
busy
No, this
you
was good.
are.
This is like talking to a friend. So this was really
Yeah.
nice.
I have a feeling we could probably just sit and talk all day. We'd probably bore everybody watching, but we'd enjoy it.
Absolutely. And I love your stance on, like, defending yourself. And I
Um,
love what you said. You're like, yeah, come near me and my family. Gonna
yeah,
have a bad day. So I love that.
yeah. People have made the mistake. They look at me and, oh, she's like this little, because I'm tiny. you know,
Yeah.
she's this little white girl with blonde hair and green eyes. And she's, like they think that I'm just going to be a pushover and a doormat.
Far from it.
And racist. So yeah, people make that mistake around me a lot.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't make it
Well,
twice.
I've seen your outrage and the way you post. I'm like, she is not to be played with. So
No, I am very real about things, and I don't pull
yeah.
any punches. To me, it's like the old saying, those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't
Oh,
matter.
no,
So
that's right. That's right.
yeah, you don't like it, hit the unfriend button.
That's how I am.
Just
I've become, there are people that I cared about that were posting Blue Lives Matter and just shocking shit. And then I would, say, hey, what are you doing? Well, do you understand what you're saying? And do you understand how this undermines? And I would feel like I needed to hang in there with them a little bit. But then recently I was like, you know what? I don't want to see this shit in my timeline anymore. And these aren't the type of people that I want to create a new reality with. So
me
I've
too.
been unfriending people that, sorry, we had a connection at one point, but when it comes to this topic, I can't play games with it.
Yeah,
So it's like,
yeah, yeah. And I always think too about not just how I feel about what they're posting, but my
mm-hmm.
friends.
Yes,
What are my friends going to feel, and how is it going to affect them if they see that on
right,
my timeline and see, oh, it's a friend of Gina. It's like, I don't
right.
want to be associated with that.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. So no,
no,
I'm there with you. I'm learning to draw that line in the sand, and plus also it's helping me because I'm finding new creative ways
mm-hmm.
to take care of myself.
Good.
And unfriending people is so exhilarating because at first it's like, I don't want to unfriend her. I've known her for so long and this, that, and the other. And then one day I was like, you know what? Just do it. And I went click, click. And I was like, oh, that was nice. That felt good.
Yeah, I've had to unfriend a few, but I find that if I just post the truth, they weed themselves out. They're like, oh, I didn't know she felt that way. I'm unfriending you. It's like,
Goodbye.
don't
That's
let them
right.
get you.
That's right. That's right. Hey, I mean, there's like 7 billion people on this planet. I'm like, I'll replace you if I need to. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and there, there's plenty more people who feel the way that we do. So
That's right. That's right. That's right. Find your tribe.
they're the silent majority, as they say, but I hate to tell them they're in the really tiny minority.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
There's a reason that the Republicans have only won the popular vote one time in 30 years.
Interesting. That's a good point.
That's called a clue. That's what we call a clue, people.
Well, you keep telling the truth. I appreciate you as an ally and somebody who's very unapologetic and who tells it like it is. So just thank you for doing that, because
no,
it's
thank me. It's just what a human being should do. You stand up.
That's right.
For what's right,
That's
right is
right.
right and wrong is wrong.
That's right.
It.
That's it.
People
That's
get upset with me because I'm so black and white about it, but it's like, I'm sorry, no.
That's right. When it comes to this, there is no gray area. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Not when people's lives are on the line.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you as an ally and fighting the fight.
I appreciate you as a friend, and I appreciate you coming on the show today. And I'm gonna do the sign off, but then stick around because I do want to talk to you about something. So
okay.
All right. So thank you guys all for watching, and I will definitely have Gwenna back again. And I hope you guys enjoyed it and got some good information, or maybe thought about things in a different way. So, as always, like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Thanks for watching Plants and Politics. The only way to take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks again.